if you look around this place, you find almost everyone seems to be building something on purpose. There's handfu, wedding shoots, couples doing engagement photos, families taking photos of the kids playing, and all these people are making a memory. I feel like I'm the only one here that's making content. That's not the same thing, and almost nobody separates the two anymore. A memory, you keep it because it mattered to you. Content you make because you need it to matter to someone else in 6 seconds before they scroll past like you're nothing. I think the actual lesson right now is that if you're making anything, videos, music, business, whatever, the moment you start making something purely for someone else's approval, you've already lost the thing that made it good. And approval is a moving target. It changes every algorithm, every update, every trend, every mood swing of a platform you don't control. If the only reason you're making something is because you need someone else to validate it, you've built your entire creative life on a foundation that can shift under you at any second. The people I'm walking past these days probably aren't even thinking about this. They're just making memories. It's good for them. Now there's a strange kind of trap that happens once your survival depends on your visibility. Not your skill or work ethic, but your visibility. And I'm not talking about vanity, I'm talking about rent. About whether the thing you built has a future or it dies quietly because nobody clicked. When being seen becomes a job description, your brain starts to make decisions from a completely different place. You stop asking, what do I actually want to say, and start asking yourself, what's going to perform? And these are two different brains on an artist. One is just artistic, and the other one is like, business traders guessing at a sentiment. And if you feel like you've lost your voice the second that you started trying to build an audience, and that's not you being broken, it's a predictable cost of turning expression into a survival mechanism. The tragedy isn't that you've changed, it's almost that nobody warns you that it's coming, so you think something's wrong with you instead of realizing that everything's wrong with the system that you're standing inside of. Now, here's something that I sit with sometimes. Personality doesn't usually get destroyed in one big moment, it erodes. Every little time that you second guess a real thought because it might not perform. Every time that you copy a trend instead of finishing your own idea. A little bit every time you flinch before hitting publish. I think that it's like nobody wakes up one day and just decides to lose themselves. It happens in 1,000 tiny retreats, each one small enough to justify, I'll just do the trend this time, I think, or I'll tone it down a little bit. You do that enough times and eventually the trends are wearing your face and you don't recognize what's underneath. If you feel like you've lost your creative instincts over the last few years, check for those small retreats. That's usually where it went. Not in some dramatic collapse, just years of tiny surrenders that nobody counted. You can't build anything worth remembering from a place of panic. Panic makes you copy, it makes you chase. Panic makes you sound like everyone else because everyone else's approach feels safer than your own, even when it's not actually working for you either. See, I've tried dozens of different directions in the last couple of years. Different formats, different hooks, different platforms. None of it moved. And I don't think it's because I lack the skill, because maybe I was choosing out of dread instead of clarity. You can feel the difference in anything that's made from fear. It's stiff, it's derivative. It's trying too hard to fit somewhere instead of trying to say something. I think if your work is feeling flat right now, you should check the emotional engine behind it. Fear-built things always feel smaller than the person who made them. Now here's the strange thing that happens when you're actually being redirected towards something better. It doesn't usually feel like momentum. It feels like failure. It feels like doors closing or paths not moving. Things don't land quite the way you hoped. I've spent a long stretch feeling like I keep picking the wrong direction, like nothing's advancing. It's like everything I try to do dissolves into the air, and for a while I read that as that I'm doing everything wrong. But I think there's another read that sometimes doors close because I'm not supposed to walk through them. Sometimes it's not like punishment, it's maybe God's redirection for your protection, or for my protection actually. I think that I've been getting steered, quietly, patiently away from chasing the algorithms and kind of towards something that actually has some weight behind it. Because I finally started listening to what I believe that God was trying to tell me underneath all of this noise in my life. So I made an album. It's called He's Coming. And the first thing that I've built in years is something that didn't come from me trying to perform for anyone. It came from a different place entirely, something closer to obedience than ambition. And I'm not going to pretend that's a comfortable sentence to say out loud in this culture that worships the hustle and personal brand. But it's the first work that I've released in a long time. It felt like it's something I'm supposed to say. I think that the value in this is whether or not faith is a part of your framework, or the work that actually lasts is really the work that's, built to please an audience. It's the work that built from whatever God's direction for you is, releasing it, whether or not it'll land with anyone. I also wrote a book, about releasing new creative work within 24 hours, compress perfectionism, kill the overthinking, just ship the thing before the fear catches up to your intention. And now that it's finished, I'm terrified to put it out, because what if I made something that matters to me and then the silence just continues? What if the numbers don't move and I just take that as proof that I was wrong and wasting my time instead of proof that the timing wasn't right yet? I think that fear and concern is universal to anyone that's ever finished something real. The second that it's done, the stakes appear, and before you noticed, it's like you had nothing to lose before it existed, and now you have a thing that can be ignored. The specific worry, this fear of being ignored, not rejected, is heavier than people like to admit. If you're sitting on something that you're scared to release, that fear isn't a sign to stop. It's probably a sign that the work finally matters enough for you to be afraid of. I still don't have any of this figured out. I'm just walking through parks like this one with my camera in my hand, not really sure if any of it reaches anyone. But I'm not really going to concern myself with that either. I'm done building from panic. I'd rather build from whatever is true in me and continue to fail loud and do that than keep building from dread and disappear quietly. So I've got new music, I've got a new direction, and I'm still walking. I'm still here, just trying to craft my path. And that's what I invite you to do. Go out and craft your path. If any of this, touched you or gave you some feels, drop a note in the comments. I read my comments and I appreciate it. You can also hit that subscribe button